Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are across the known world, and welcome to another round of interviews of The Crown Between Two Roses. I am Countess Beatrix.
And I am Countess Lilya. As we traditionally do with the start of all interviews, we first of all would like to acknowledge Master Magnus for his idea to run these interviews and chats, and roping us both in while we were drinking. So, and also we would like to acknowledge the lands of the traditional landholders of Australia and other kingdoms that might be here today. So just one moment, please. Good nobles, we come here together in the spirit of fellowship, the deepening of our skills, sharing of our knowledge, and the shared interest in the search to find truth through experimental archaeology and historical inquiry. It is in that context that I, Countess Lilya bint Azir, on behalf of my kingdom, acknowledge the traditional owners of the land upon which we gather. We recognize their continuing connection to land and culture, and we pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and the elders from other communities who may have joined us here today. Excuse me.
And today we'd like to welcome King Maynard and Queen Líadain of the Kingdom of Æthelmearc. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us. We're pretty excited.
Awesome. So we've said that you're from Æthelmearc. Whereabouts is that in the mundane world?
So that is a portion of New York, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia. And pretty much if you think of where Pennsic is in Æthelmearc.
Awesome.
So we don't have to ask you about what your significant event is then. That's okay.
No,
what your
that's our significant event.
Everyone trains for it every year. It's the big one, and it's the one we see all our friends from all over the known world.
Yeah, like you, Bee.
What is the role of the crown at Pennsic?
Oh, that's a good one.
So for Æthelmearc, we're the host kingdom. The war is actually between the mid and the east. So we greet everybody obviously to our lands. We are responsible for now we're responsible to run every third war as a kingdom. So we have a lot of responsibility as far as that goes. And we're basically in partnership with the two warring kingdoms, off the field. On the field, we're just an ally, but a lot more responsibility, especially in the last few years.
Absolutely. So. And I think that summed it up, right? Our main responsibility is to be good hosts.
So we also ask all the kings and queens where their device and the name of their kingdom came from originally. Do you have that information?
We do. We do. So we're pretty excited. We're actually having an Æthelmearc centric show. We do a show called AE Live tomorrow, and the person who came up with the name and device will be talking a little bit about that. But Æthelmearc is actually broken out into two words, Ethel and Mark, but essentially it means noble borderlands. So as His Majesty said, we are on the border between the East and the Mid, and so that pretty much sums up what we are. And as far as our device goes, the escarbuncle, I don't know if you want to. So the escarbuncle, along with that, is it's a shield boss. So it is the defense of the realm in our noble borderlands.
Very cool.
It's not a snowflake.
Unique and individual, like its people.
Yeah, we're not wearing red because of Æthelmearc. We figure we wear blue, red, and white in honor of your kingdom.
So. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. So does your kingdom have any specific traditions that you're known for or across the known world?
Oh, we greet everyone at Penzic during opening ceremonies. That's a pretty big tradition, and one that happened once we became a kingdom 23 years ago in September.
Yeah, our kingdom is it kind of takes a little bit from quite a bit from the East Kingdom. We're born from the East Kingdom, so a lot of our traditions are very much based off of East Kingdom traditions. But we have taken some traditions from the Mid Realm because we're so close to them. But I think that the one thing that we always we have a very relaxed attitude about things, and we're pretty easygoing. I think everyone that meets people from Æthelmearc would say that that's kind of our, we're just laid back, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
I know one of the traditions that I think you established, Líadain, was the Queen's inspiration.
Oh, yeah, there is that. So our last reign was 7 years ago, 7 or 8 years ago. And one of the things that we wanted to do was stress the fact that it's not just about awards. It's about the fact that anyone can recognize anyone. And certainly as royalty, we have a little bit more sway. But at the closing of each court, I would give a token, and it's actually this token. I always wear one on my sleeve, to that person who inspired us that day. And we encouraged others to do the same. And it warms my heart to say that that tradition did continue after we stepped down and now is in continuance this day.
One other thing that we do have is we have an event called Adult Swim. It's in February, and it's known across the known world, I think. And it's basically a winter fight practice. Mm-hmm. And we invite people from all over the known world, and we've gotten people from all over come to that, all over the U.S. and Canada. And so that's another nice tradition that people would know Æthelmearc for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you had like 19 kingdoms, 18 or 19 kingdoms.
It's really
represented.
Impressive.
Yeah, it's a huge turnout every year. But yes, I think we've had 1 year where we had almost every kingdom represented. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we're hoping it happens this year. Yeah. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, because I know Sir Agro went over to that one, mm-hmm. and he absolutely raved about it.
Everyone should come over. You can stay at our house, right, Maynard? I say that because that may have happened once with B and a few friends from your kingdom.
Yeah, a couple days before Penzic, she said, "Hey, we're gonna have 7 people stop over," and I'm like, "We're packing for Penzic. Well, I'll just be here for overnight." And it turned out to be B and a group from your kingdom, and they were great. We had a great time.
We did.
So even though I was kind of a curmudgeon about it, but
it's okay. He's usually
you got to talk fighting and pole work. It was awesome.
And Lorcan likes Seagram's Mist.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of stories.
So how many times have you both reigned?
This is my 3rd reign and his 4th. And
I'd like to know what made you decide to put up your hand to reign this time?
I'll let you go. No, go ahead.
So there's a few things. We try to outdo ourselves every time we reign. So we wanted to we try to do special things during our reign, not just, sit on the thrones, go to events and give out awards. Líadain always has great ideas, and we had a pilgrimage planned this year for the kingdom, and tokens to give out for people that traveled, and we were celebrating the virtues. So those are things that, when we're ready to fight and crown, we're thinking about things like that. the other thing is we wanted, some things to, people to recognize, obviously, for their great achievements. And that's one of the great things about being on the throne is you can do that. So those are kind of the reasons why we wanted to step up and try it again. We always, we try to keep a few years between every reign because you don't want to get burned out. You want, and we don't want our people to get burned out. Our friends do so much for us. So we always keep that in mind. We never do it more than 4 or 5 years in between reigns.
Yeah, it's 5 between our first and 7 between our last. And we ask our household, our company, is it okay if we do this? Because we've both been on royal staff, and it's a lot. Maybe not so much this reign, but
It's just different this reign. Just different.
It is different this reign.
So when did you step up this reign?
April.
April.
The second week in April.
Yeah, we had a virtual coronation. Our last royalty had one virtual court before the coronation, and then we had a virtual coronation. Really, the only way at that point in April for us to move along and step up. But it was the best we can hope for, and it was trying to get crowns over to us and things like that was a challenge, but we managed to do everything, get everything together, and be able to do that. So
we live in New York State, and New York State was locked down very hard. So it was a little bit more challenging, but luckily there's those, shady over the border deals kind of thing happening. So
when did you win the crown tourney?
It was October last year.
Wow. So you've been sitting as royalty for almost a year.
Yeah. So it's a 6-month heirship, and then a 6-month on, give or take, obviously. So, and we're not quite sure where this is going to take us, but we're here, and we're until we can have a crown tournament. Obviously, there's options, but as long as the kingdom will have us, we're there to support them.
How did you both get involved in the society?
Well, so mine was maybe playing D&D, Your Excellency. You're talking before the show. The group that I played D&D with in my first year of college, some of them were in the SCA and took me to a local mini event, and I was hooked, line and sinker. And that was 1991. So it's been a while.
Yeah, my first month in college, 2 of my high school buddies saw a flyer. Someone from downstate was going to school in Buffalo, where we live, and he had his armor and his weapons, and he had a little flyer up saying, "Hey, meet us here Friday night at the gym." And we went, and he introduced us to the SCA, and the 3 of us went to the local fight practice, and that was 1989, and I've been doing it ever since.
What is it that's kept you in for so long?
There's just so much to do, right? So one of my passions was fighting. My body didn't let me continue fighting. So that was a very difficult hurdle for me, admittedly. And I did stop playing for a while. I stopped being active. But then I found other passions, right? Because there's just so much, right? There's ANS, there's service, there's just hanging with your friends. This organization is like no other because you have friendships within your country, across the world, right? So I couldn't think of anything else I could do that would give me the satisfaction that the SCA does.
Yeah, I mean, number one, it's a social organization. All our friends do it. That's where our deep relationships are outside of family. They're actually family, our friends in the SCA. For me, a lot of it too was just a progression, new fighter to squire to knight, sitting royalty, to training squires, to learning new weapon forms, to serving the kingdom, as a heavy combat marshal. So just continuing to expand and give back, for things like that for me is what. And now I love the historical parts a lot more. I fight in a lot of the deeds and the combat of 30, things like that. So that has really pushed me to make my armor more authentic and to more historical. So it's just, there's so many facets, like she said, that it's hard to stop because there's so much to get into, and there's a lot more we want to do, and we just never have time.
Yeah.
So what are your personas when you're not being king and queen?
That's really a tough question for me. I've tried to drill down into a persona, but I find that I love so many things across the board that I have never. I really have an SCA persona, not a historical persona. Truth.
Yeah, on the throne, we were going to do a 14th century reign this time around. Obviously, we took it a little too strong, and we had a plague. So you could probably blame us for that. But
no, we're blaming our own king and queen for that.
Usually when we're on the throne, we don't mind being Barbie king and queen, and if people want to make clothes for us, and we'll wear those clothes and do it up because it's fun. We've had sometimes we had a Laurel that did Byzantine, dress us up in Byzantine for her court, when she was made a Laurel. So things like that are what's awesome about the SCA. But my persona is a Teutonic knight from the 14th century. So German.
So how you've mentioned about your personas and Líadain, that you're across the board. What kind of areas are you interested in?
So primarily it is 14th century and Landsknecht. I mean, I love both. I would say probably more 14th century because that's where I did start when I was building my persona. So that 14th century Irish is the bent, I would guess. But sorry, my dog just made a really crazy noise. Yay, doing things at home.
Yeah, and I do. I've been really kind of focused on my persona more so, obviously, to get my armor together and researching effigies and trying to get my armor to look like that. And so I've been really kind of narrowing focus on the 14th century German quite a bit. And it's it keeps my interest for sure, and it makes me want to push harder and do better.
Do you encourage your students to do the same?
Oh, definitely. We have a group of guys that love doing the deeds, and they push that. My former squire who got knighted was into Roman, and he did that all the way. But I love, if you have a passion, you try to push your students towards that passion, and if they really they really want to research a persona and get better at it, then you kind of research it with them so that you can push them in the right direction.
God, I hope that doesn't happen with me. I have too many students. I'm a hand a book for the rest of my life.
Your Excellency, how many students do you have?
Oh, I have 4 official students. One lovely gentleman who told me I was his mentor when he was actually elevated to the Order of the Pelican, which was nice. And because my my husband passed away 3 years ago, I gave all of his students the opportunity to have me as a surrogate peer, which a couple of them have said yes to, which is lovely. So I think I've got about 2 or 3 of his as well. One of them is actually living in Drakenbolt at the moment. and she is amazing, but she's kind of gone, I just don't have the time because she's doing her like she's doing university over there in Cambridge. I went, your life comes first. But I check in on her every couple of months. So yeah, I have a few.
I guess so. Wow.
They're very free.
How about yourselves?
So I currently have 2 students. I had 3, so I'm a pelican and have proteges. One got elevated, and then I have 2 others.
I have 6 squires.
I was giving him time. I was like, because he's like, oh. Interesting fact, I was his squire.
Oh. How does that dynamic work?
It doesn't. I loved fighting him until we became a couple, and then it was all over. Like it totally switches the dynamic because it flips the competitiveness. I don't know. I'm like, you're not fighting me hard enough, right? Like it was bizarre. So just didn't work out.
Don't do it.
It worked out. I mean, we got married, life is good, but you have to move on. 100%.
But it sounds like you're both very competitive at the same level.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
So you mentioned AE Live. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Obviously, nobody expected this to last as long as it is, and we wanted to do something that would be engaging for our populace, engaging and informative. Some folks were doing, they're calling them ethereal courts. Our mindset was we didn't really want to recognize people with awards virtually, but we still wanted to interact with them. So we came up with a variety show, basically, something where we could offer, a little bit of banter with ourselves and our herald, have interviews, some crazy, like we're always encouraging people to submit content, entertainment, things like that. We did start with a couple of times a month. We've slowed down though, because as the pandemic has gone on, more and more people are having classes and scholas and different kinds of gatherings. There's not enough weekends to do all the things, and we wanted to open that calendar up.
Yeah, the show is really great. We have great people that help us with it every time we do a show. We meet twice a week, a couple weeks before the show. So it's pretty intensive. So it's great to have those people that are helping us, even though, things are kind of on pause with the SCA, and we appreciate them. But we also love doing the show. It's kind of gives us a chance to keep the kingdom engaged. And I think that's what's driving us to do that show, is to keep people interested, so that they know we're here for them. Other people join in and do other things outside of it, and I think that's what's important right now, is keeping people engaged, keeping them tuned in, so that when we can meet again, it's not it'll make it easier, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And people have told us they're wow, this is really great. It's nice to put our medieval clothes on for a Saturday night and make some food and sit in front of the screen, and then after the show we always have a chat with everybody, a Zoom chat, so that we can see everybody and talk to people and interact. We're having a great time with it, and we have between 150 200 people tune in every time we have a show. So I mean, that's almost that's as big as a court, if not bigger. So yeah, we're really excited about how well it's going.
Yeah. And admittedly, when we first started, I'm like, this is really hard, because you've been royalty before, right? Like, so you feed off the energy of your audience. And you're looking at a screen like we're doing right now. It's like, are we funny or not? We're good now. As you saw, we do a shot of Fireball before every show, and it makes it way better.
Wow. So what do you miss when you're royalty about not being royalty?
For me, it's meeting new people. I mean, you have a unique opportunity as royalty to open up your circle, and you're kind of forced to open up your circle, right? But you have that opportunity to meet and engage with new people and see new things, right? It's so inspiring to me because you're exposed to all those different areas that you're not normally seeing. And we do see that a little bit, but it's not the same.
Yeah, I mean, you were concentrating on, our company and making sure everything's going smoothly with them. I mean, it's almost 50 people. So you want to lead them and lead by example. And then, being royalty gives you the chance to do that at a kingdom level. It's like she said, meeting new people and having those opportunities to try to, get on a horse when you have a chance, or go to the thrown weapon range and throw with the people there, and usually, we don't have those opportunities. So that's what I think I like the best.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain the company to me? Because you've mentioned that your company, is that
so
like a 50 people household?
Yes.
Yeah, it's so we were part of households in the past, and about 10 years ago we formed a company. And the reason why we call it as a company, because people that we wanted to bring in, we didn't want it to be, two people kind of in charge of it. We wanted to bring in, and a lot of our friends were already peers. So we wanted more of a place where peers can come and they can bring their students if they wanted to be part of the company, and be part of a collective, and be a fighting unit on the field, and hang out together, camp together, stuff like that. So, and the word household for some people, was a negative word, and we didn't want that to be something that people would back away from. And it's also something that we've never, for the most part, have not invited people, and they've asked to be part of it. We wanted to be more of a, hey, I want to be part of it, and that's kind of, the reason why we stay away from the household word. It's not a bad word, it's just something we stay away from. But yeah, so it's grown to almost 50 people now. I would have never imagined it'd be that big. I don't think either of us did. And some people come and go. Some people, have left and aren't around anymore because their lives change. And we bring in new people, and it's just great. It's nice having a sound group to hang out with, to go to events with, to plan to go to events with. They're always there to help each other. But we're not insular enough that we don't invite other people. Anybody can camp with us if they're friends. So it's a really loose organization. We have very little rules. It's, no drama.
That's number one rule, no drama.
And, outside of that, try to wear the company colors when you're on the field. And that's really about it. And we just all take care of each other.
I saw in the chat that so the name of our company is Woodland Watch. It's a gold field with a black pine tree. We are the Sylvan Kingdom and sort of watching out for the woods. But for some reason, the WW, we came up with we yell it. That was actually my former protege. Said what?
Yeah.
In the hand signals.
Yes, we do. Because this makes an S, the A and the E.
Yeah. And
then if you flip it, it's a W. So it's the AE and then WW.
Yeah, we have some gang signs. Yeah.
That's how we roll here in Æthelmearc, or Æthelmearc, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, you guys have 800 different ways to pronounce your kingdom. So, I mean, I think it's pretty good we have two. So.
Yeah, there are definitely some interesting pronunciations that we have heard over the years, especially going across to Penzic, and the different. Yeah,
it's tough, but not.
Because sometimes you're like, Is that our kingdom? Are they pronouncing? I'm not quite sure what they're talking about.
You're talking about corn.
There's definitely a cultural difference. I think we all got pre-warned when we went to Penzig the first year. There's certain sayings that Australians have that are completely offensive in the US. So we're all kind of sat down and given a lecture on what we should and shouldn't say or do. So,
and some terms that are used here are not the same as what are used over there. They have very different meanings.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Offline, I'm going to have to pick your brain a little bit. Now I want to know.
So is there a specific award that you both like giving out as king and queen?
Well, there's a couple. What's yours? So this is a great question.
Oof. I love giving awards out on the field, or for me, it's the place. It's not necessarily the award, like surprising somebody or just doing we had one Penzig where we did a lot of, wandering awards. We went to the merchant area, and there was people that deserved awards that, they worked their whole vacation because they're merchanting and, doing stuff like that, off the cuff. Giving out an award during a feast, things like that, that break from tradition. For me, that's great. And having somebody, their reactions. For me, it's not one specific award. It's just that, breaking things up and making it interesting.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Excuse me. It's that reaction, right? Like, because it could be any award, but as royalty, it's that when you know that you have truly touched someone deeply by recognizing them. And I think that is one of my favorite parts of the SCA. I do human resources mundanely, and we do employee recognition, but I don't think it's the same. It doesn't capture that depth of how we do in the SCA, because you give you recognize some people, and it's powerful. So that is a great point. And I would say the award itself doesn't matter as much as the reaction.
Yeah, some people will get an award of arms, and that might be the only thing they ever achieve, and that's just as meaningful as a peerage, and depending on the person.
Well, and that's one of the reasons that we struggled to do virtual courts, because some people were like, well, just don't give peerages, just give AOAs. But as he said, that might be the only opportunity that person ever has to get recognized. And we are such a small kingdom that we feel that, over time, they will have that opportunity to get recognized. We're not going to backlog something crazy.
I have a question. So you own Penzig lands.
Mm-hmm.
Do visiting royalty have to ask to have a court on your lands?
No. So Penzig is its own animal because it's so large. It's the largest event in the SCA. It's organized and run by a coalition from all over. So there's no requirement there to do that. So it's kind of a neutral zone, I guess, for 2 weeks out of the summer. And obviously you got to be careful with giving awards out to other kingdom citizens. Those things have to be discussed between the royalty. But outside of that, no, there's nothing. That they're free to do whatever they need to. They don't have to ask permission to come to our lands. It's it's kind of eternal cousins, come and let's have a good time, really.
Mm-hmm.
I only ask because one of the Penzigs I attended, I watched Three Kingdoms knight 3 people at the same time on the warfield, which is something I had never experienced anywhere before or ever will. So it was quite interesting. And I kind of went, how does one kind of organize something like that if you know, like if you're the crown over the whole Pennsic, like how does that work?
And
like, do you all go just get your loudest herald, or
a lot of it is
Just get it done.
usually the three principal kingdoms will discuss stuff, especially if we're giving, say, a knight, we're recognizing a knight and giving him the accolade, and he's someone that's known from our kingdom, and not known maybe across, the other kingdoms, then, we don't need to ask. But there's some people that have great renown, and they're known across, so you kind of give opportunities and you talk to the other kingdoms and say, hey, we're doing this, and then we work around it. So it's really just, we talk to each other. Obviously, the minute that the three principal kingdoms have a prince and princess, and we're going to reign during Pennsic, we start talking immediately, because we need to organize and keep, on the same page. So it is done a little bit, especially with the East Mid and Æthelmearc. We talk to each other constantly for the entire reign.
in the 6 months leading up that you're prince and princess, are you doing some of the administration work of the kingdom, or is it here you go, dropped all your lap the day they become king and queen?
Well, I mean, so how does it work in your kingdom? How long are your heirs? Not on the throne, but our dog, there has to be some sort of wild animal. He's the best dog ever. He might sound like he's dying in there. It's very bizarre. We get like raccoons and coyotes and things, so that's freaking out. Sorry about that.
That's just random. Okay.
Let's go backwards.
Our heirs sit for around about 8 weeks.
Oh, really short.
They have no responsibilities except preparing for their reign.
Oh, okay. So, here I think part of it is Pennsic, because Pennsic is so huge. We've only ever done summer rains, we call them. There's summer rains, winter rains. So we've only done summer rains, and there is so much to prepare for Pennsic that you kind of need that time, because you have to get the infrastructure in place. Being the hosting kingdom, Æthelmearc is always on stage, so you always have to have retainers, you always have to have guards. So trying to recruit all of those people, having to make favors for 750 people is a lot, right? So
yeah. So for a lot of ways, it's a reign within a reign. And having those 6 months as prince and princess allows you, obviously, you step up with the other royalty that will be at Pennsic. You're able to coordinate, because you are going to be king and queen at Pennsic. It allows you to get staff in place. Sometimes your staff isn't necessarily your Pennsic staff, so you need to get that in place. So without that opportunity, without that extra 6 months, especially for a summer reign, it would be very difficult. And then, the winter reign, at least you get to, be prince and princess at Pennsic, which is important too. You get to enjoy that part of it. You get to go, they need to go to order meetings, because it's a great opportunity for them to get in front of the orders before they step up, because really shortly after Pennsic is their coronation, if you're prince and princess. So for us, you almost need those 6 months.
Mm-hmm. And I've struggled with do you really need 6 months? But where we live, there's a lot of snow. So it's, the fall and the spring really are the ideal times to hold that. And you can't shift it too much, or you have to have crowns inside. And that's something we're very proud of in Æthelmearc. Our crown tournaments are always outdoors and really encompass that pageantry.
Yeah, we've never had an indoor crown.
Never had one in a gym.
Yeah.
How many entrants would you have for a crown tourney on average?
So we had in the early days of the kingdom, we were in the 30s up to some low 40s. In the last 10 years, we're in the 20s. Sometimes we'll hit 32. So I would say anywhere between 16, 17, and 32. But we're usually in the mid to high 20s though every time.
And location matters with any kingdom, right? The more remote you get, the less entrance you tend to get.
Yep. And we usually get more participants in the fall because there will be a summer reign, and you know, wanting to be king and queen of Pennsic is a big deal here. So.
Do you have any rituals that you both have when you're entering Crown?
I am extremely superstitious, I guess is the word. So I definitely do. I won't tell you all of them, but I have to stand a certain way. Like I definitely have a ritual. Him, not so much.
I ask her if she wants to, you know, we never go into a crown thinking we're not going to win. We always got to have that in the back of our head. So we always discuss, are we ready? Do we want to do it? We never put a letter in unless we're intending to fight and win. It's very important to us to not just put a letter in and then back out.
Because to be clear, he fought for me 3 times, only 3 times.
What was your first impression when he won the first time?
The first time was yay! The second time he hadn't been practicing very much, and we're up like, oh, it's gonna be fine. And as when he was in the finals, one of my good friends, a Duchess, was behind me, and she actually had to push me and said he won, and I was like, crap. But we were definitely all in and ready to do that, and that was a really successful reign.
It was, yeah. And for me, you know, getting ready before Crown, before I'm fighting, you know, mentally prepared. You know, always I try to practice on a regular basis, so I don't really ramp that up. It's more just mentally prepare myself. You know, stay loose and try to enjoy the moment. A lot of people. Lose that. You know, you gotta focus when you're fighting, but then, you know, try to, you know, enjoy what's happening around you while the tournament's going on too.
I love Crown Tournament. I mean, I'm not sure how it is at your kingdom. I have this vision that it's the same throughout the known world, but I really do love the pageantry and the excitement of it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite events. It really is. I'm going to ask you a question about coronations, because I was lucky enough to attend one of the coronations of your crowns. And one of the things that surprised me was the length of the court. Yes.
Which coronation did you go to? I'm just curious, because we don't have any set.
Marcus and Marguerite.
Yeah, so a lot of times, and a lot of things are discussed between the royalty. So the outgoing royalty sometimes will have a lot to do because they either couldn't get it in, you know, and people missed a lot of events, so they need to get a lot of stuff done. So they seem to take up some time where, you know, it's coronation, but they need to get stuff done. And then coronation, depending on the person, they could have a elaborate ceremony with awards at night, because there's a court at night sometimes. So it's really based on what the royalty want and the outgoing and incoming discuss. But we have no written ceremonies. So the ceremonies are completely personalized, and almost always the people being coronated kind of decide how it's run, and the people stepping down kind of just follow their lead. You know, like I said, we're a laid back kingdom. We tend to get along for the most part, and that makes it easy. So the transition is easy. But we, you know, there's no, we don't use canned fealties, anything. Everything is personalized.
So it can get long,
it can get long,
or it can be very short. I mean, there's certainly a formula,
yeah.
Right? There's that expectation of, you know, these things must happen in order for the coronation to be successful. But I've also seen short coronations, but you're right, they do tend to be long, especially if that outgoing royalty, if they do have a lot of business. The hope is that they don't, though.
Yeah.
So when you said there's no written format, is that solely coronation, or is that All awards.
No,
Everything.
so we have no sumptuary laws at all. We have laws, for the kingdom that are, that we need obviously for day-to-day things and stuff like that. But as far as ceremonies, we have no written ceremonies. A lot of things are traditional and passed from herald to herald, because a lot of the kingdom heralds tend to have been in the kingdom for a long time, understand our traditions and follow our traditions. And they learn really quick if they don't know them. But there is none. There is, and we've actually had some people try to swear fealty from other kingdoms, and they ask for the what's the words, and we're like,
you make it up.
They're like, your words. So,
No.
And I think that what I really love that about our kingdom, where if you're royalty, there's so much you can do and personalize your reign, because there's not a book you read from. There's none of that. And peerage ceremonies, there's a traditional format and you can mess with it, but it gives the candidate the opportunity to switch things up and say, I would rather have this, or I would rather have that. And so the herald works with the royalty and especially for a peerage, and the candidate to organize their ceremony how they really want to see it, and we work together that way. And I think that's what for me, it enriches court too, because it makes it more personal, especially for elevations, for peerages. But across the board, just having that opportunity to make it yourself, it makes it harder maybe on the royalty, because we have to come up with the words ourselves. Definitely makes it a little more awkward sometimes, especially if you're not used to talking in front of people. But you know what? Former royalty are always there. We always back each other. And like I said, it goes back to that laid back, we're in it together mentality that our kingdom has.
That sounds fascinating. I'm going to have to turn up to one of your courts, I think.
It can also go really, really wrong.
But at least it's unique and memorable.
Yeah, it is.
So we've been asking everybody about their knowledge of Lochac while we do these interviews. You've obviously met some of our mischief makers and and people who travel. Did you have any idea of what Lochac was like until you met some of us?
No.
No, I mean, outside, the mundane world, obviously we're one of our places where we like to travel. And one of our places that are on our top 3 right now is Australia. So, we're hoping to get there, on a mundane level, once, everything, the dust settles through this pandemic. No, I mean, we learned a lot from Bea and all her friends and everybody we met, especially as we see them at Pennsic, and we go to, your kingdom's camp every year. Because even if we don't know the people, they're very nice and friendly, and and it's not, we're way up on the hill and coming down, and it's kind of a halfway point to the bog. So it's nice having a transition place where we can hang out, have a drink, and continue down.
But definitely there are cultural differences, not just within the SCA, but personally, I mean, we have great fun when Bea comes to our camp and she starts talking about patty melons and all sorts of great. We're like, what are you saying? It's a false animal. We don't believe it exists, right? So it's definitely been eye-opening, and I do love that. Like I said earlier, that the cultural exchange that's allowed within the SCA, right? Even if it's between New York and Arizona, there are always those cultural differences, I should say. And certainly much more so when you start going on the other side of the world and into tomorrow, you crazy future people.
It's very sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
So do you both have a story that you love to tell about the SCA, like a personal story that you like to tell about this?
Ooh.
It doesn't have to be PG-13, but be aware it is in the morning over here.
Well, I mean, if personal story, I mean, I think for me, there's so many stories about friends and developing those relationships. But for me, it's the immersion sometimes when you get into when you're at an event and you feel like you're in the past. And for me, those are the best moments, and they don't happen as often as I wish. But when they do happen, they're magical. And for me, it was probably my vigil, when I was knighted, and that was, actually where I would be celebrating my 20th anniversary at an event, a local event this weekend, in an event called Harvest Raid, and I got knighted 20 years ago there. It's an awesome event, cabin space by the lake, great fall event for us. But 20 years ago tonight, my knight made it really amazing. He added the spin of a Teutonic, someone, that was in the Teutonic order that was getting the accolade, and that experience was amazing. It was an all-night vigil. I stayed up the entire night. When it was over, the purification ceremony happened in the freezing cold lake. So those are the things for me, if I'm telling a story to someone that has never been in the SCA or wants to know about it, that was a great, story to tell, but shared with a beer, sure.
Yeah, well, and that's also an Æthelmearc tradition now. So his morning ritual of going to the lake at Harvest Raid for purification, other knights over the years have started to join in that tradition and go into the lake Saturday morning before the fighting.
Yeah, so every year, and this would be the first year I missed, but I've gone in every year Saturday morning, to renew my vows and re-purify myself. And a lot of people have joined me that have received the accolade since then.
Mm-hmm. Pretty amazing. I can't top that, so I'm not even going.
What would be one of your most favorite memories of the SCA then, Líadain?
There are so many. I think many of them are encapsulated by those candlelight moments when you're surrounded by your friends and you just feel that warmth, that love, and that kinship with people like no other, be it down in the bog, be it in a castle, be it in a gym somewhere, right? There are just so many of those that they're flying through my mind, but it's all that same feeling of kinship and friendship.
Yeah, she's very competitive, and when she was able to put the armor on and fight with the kingdom, she would glow, and especially as queen. So I think, she's not talking about it, but she loves to be able to be out there as a queen, fighting with her kingdom. And, we've had the opportunity to fight side by side, and, for me, it's one of the best moments too on the field.
Yeah. And that was my intention, despite being broken. I was going to fight again for this reign.
Isabella has just put up getting proposed to.
Oh, yeah. So he proposed to me at one of our largest Æthelmearc events in front of people. And he got quite angry because I didn't answer right away, because I'm like, you're really doing this in front of all these people? I was really, what is happening right now? But so he arranged to have me called up in court, and then he was called up in court afterwards. It was actually fortuitous because it was recorded by many people because it was happening. But that was a pretty good moment. And as he started talking about fighting, I started thinking about all the fighting moments, right? Like, there's just so many. I mean, we've been in the SCA for like 30 years, right? Yeah. So there's just so many amazing memories. I have memories with you, B, that can't be topped with that stupid foam crown. I mean, there's just There's goofy stories. There's touching stories, fierce stories, and then those stories you kind of want to forget, like the whole going down in the bog, getting a little too drunk, those kind of stories. But they all lead to the same end, where we get to sit here and talk to you guys.
Yeah, one of my favorite stories is Maynard's Bucks Night in the bog.
Oh, that one's good.
The bachelor party, yes, that was spectacular.
Which Lochac had a lot to do with, right? You supplied the inflatable sheep.
They gave me an anatomically correct inflatable sheep, yes, and I had to carry it the whole night. And one of my favorite stories about that night is we had a friend, one of our buddies we started in our camp and worked our way down. And he ran up to camp, a half hour late, and he didn't know where we were. So he's, now I got to find him. And there's at Pennsic, 10,000 people at night. I'm never going to find him because our plan was just to move around Pennsic, was not to stay at one place. He had no idea where we were going to be. So he went to a few camps and asked. He went into a camp and he said, "Hey, I'm looking for a group of guys." Now he had no idea about the sheep, the blow-up sheep. He had no idea. He was just like, there's a bachelor party. Do you know of a bachelor party that's going around Pennsic? And the guy's like, I have no idea. But there was a group of guys. Somebody was holding a blow-up sheep, and there was a group, and they just left. And he's like, that's them.
It has to be, right?
It has to be them. And it was us. So, but he eventually did catch up to us. So. And we were supposed to stay up until the sun came up, but I think we all went to bed before that.
Fail.
Well, thank you so much. We have come to the end of our interview. It has been amazing to get to chat to you and get to know a little bit more of your kingdom and do the sharing of information, because everywhere across the known world does things just that little bit differently. So thank you so much for your time and your laughs and your stories.
Absolutely. And we would trust you both that if you had somebody coming over to the States and they were going to Niagara Falls, because it's only 15 minutes from our house, if they needed a place to crash and they're up in upstate New York here, our house is open.
Always.
Definitely.
You may regret that.
Probably, but it's okay.
You haven't been to Niagara Falls? No,
not yet. Maybe next time.
One of the wonders of the world. You have to come over. Well, thank you both, ladies. It was wonderful. Thank you, Magnus, for facilitating this. We appreciate all of you. Thank you for keeping the SCA going during this time. This is key. So enjoy your next 2 interviews. You are wild women.
And thank you to everybody who was watching today. Please join us again very soon. We are interviewing King Felix and Queen Madalena from the Middle Kingdom. Thank you again, Your Majesties, and remember to like, share, and have a look at the rest of our videos on A Crown Between Two Roses. Please take care, and we will see you soon.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you.